So it's a good time for Sisters and Custodes. Let's take a look at the list that won the Las Vegas Nopen. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today I thought it would be fun to take a list that took the Las Vegas Nopen this year, in the absence of the proper event going ahead. I'm sure a lot of you will have been familiar with what's been going on with that, but just in case you hadn't, this was a mini event run by some content creators in lieu of the biggest Warhammer tournament in the world going ahead, because of course the Las Vegas Open was cancelled due to the virus. Hopefully everything will be back together for next year, fingers crossed. But this year, a bunch of content creators stepped up to the plate to give us some competitive games to watch. They basically ran a mini tournament with 16 lists, each one written by someone who was very familiar with the faction, and trying to make something competitively fiendish to win the event. As an interesting quirk though, due to the games being played with real miniatures in different locations, the same player wouldn't be able to play their list the entire way through the tournament. They'd get to play it in the first game or two, but then they'd be handing it over to other players to play in the final couple of rounds. In any case, the list that wound up winning was the Custodes and Sisters Alliance, written by Tank Roberts of Hellstorm Wargaming, and played by John Lennon of The Art of War in the final. So here is the list in question then. It's comprised of a Sisters of Battle Battalion of the Bloody Rose Order, and a Custodes patrol of Shadow Keepers. For the most part, the Sisters provide enormous amounts of damage dealing between 5 threatening units, and do some grunt work and actions, and the Custodes provide masses of defense with 2 enormous units of Custodian Guard, and some excessively tanky characters. Let's start with talking about the Sisters first though. They're fielded as Order of the Bloody Rose to give them extra attacks and extra AP on the charge for 2 big units of Repentia, 2 units of 8, each in a Sororitas Rhino. Despite a mild points increase in the latest FAQ, they still remain some of the most efficient melee in the game. On the charge with a missionary nearby, each sister will be putting out 4 attacks with strength 6, AP -3 and damage 2, hitting on 4s but re-rolling all hits with their Zealot ability. They combine absolutely excellently with the Bloody Road's 1 command point stratagem, Tear Them Down, to get them +1 to wound, meaning that they'll go through just about anything in one round of combat. Just one squad with those buffs averages something like 20 wounds to a toughness 8 tank, for example. If for some reason they don't kill their target, and whatever they charged in return doesn't kill them back, then they can use 3 CP to fight again if they need to, potentially getting all that same damage all over again. Very, very nasty, and they have a good chance of getting off a charge where they need to, coming out of those Sororitas Rhinos. For actions and objectives, there are 3 units of 5 Battle Sisters, good for a bit of OBSEC and holding backfield objectives, and 2 units of 2 Death Cult Assassins, who can do very nicely just coming out of Strategic Reserve and doing things like actions like deploy Scramblers, or just standing in table quarters for engage on all fronts. The detachment is led by a Canoness with a Null Rod for a bit of extra psychic denial, and she's a bit of a miracle dice generation machine, with Beacon of Faith allowing you to generate a miracle dice each turn, and the Litanies of Faith allowing you to re-roll that dice to try and get a better result. Can be really helpful for just high damage rolls on the Retributors, or getting some automatic very long charges out of those Repentia. Finally, for some serious anti-tank, there are 3 units of 5 Retributors, each with 2 Multi-Melters and 2 Armorium Cherubs. I quite like the balance between the Multi-Melters and the Cherubs here. When Retributors pop up to shoot something, there's really quite a good chance they'll be killed in return by the enemy, so it kind of pays to put more emphasis on the first Alpha Strike than being able to fire every single turn. They still get 8 multi-melter shots on the turn that they pop up, and then 4 each turn after that, which really isn't too bad for 120 point units. These girls could have the potential to start on the board out of line of sight, or be put in strategic reserve for a few command points to have some nasty melter threats coming on from the flanks. So that brings us to the Custodes, a small patrol with 4 units, 2 characters and 2 big units of Custodian Guard. There's 5 Custodian Guard in each, they're all equipped with storm shields, and they provide an excessively tanky OBSEC battle line, pretty much perfect for bullying up to the centre of the board and holding it against all comers. The Custodes detachment are Shadow Keepers, which grants them access to a really nice reactive defensive stratagem to go along with that strategy. You pay 1 command point, and then all weapons that target the unit will be -1 strength. It's only going to make a difference for certain weapon profiles, but this could really make them even more excessively resistant to any shooting that's strength 5 or strength 6. Providing them some rerolls as they walk up the board is Trajan Valoris himself. He's an absolute beast of a character in melee, striking at strength 10. It's really hard to shift with a 3+ invul save, which is a bit of a rarity in 40k these days, and allows both himself and nearby Custodes to reroll all 1s to hit and wound. Pretty excellent all-round support for the shield wall, and he's also got some nasty tricks that he can deploy with his Moment Shackle. Finally, last but not least, is a pretty horrific shield captain on Dawn Eagle Jetbike, who has multiple stacking upgrades to make him an absolute nightmare to remove for the opponent. He takes the Auric Aquilas as his relic jet bike for a 3+ invul save, and it also allows him to reroll failed charge rolls to boot. He goes up to 9 wounds from Indomitable Constitution, his Captain Commander upgrade, and also has Superior Creation, which stacks a 5+ Feel No Pain type save on top of that. All this maths out, so if you were just firing very high AP weapons at the Custodes Captain, this guy is basically 3 times as durable, as a standard one that has a 4+ invul and no other durability upgrades. He can make some excellent use of the Custodes Objective Secured special rule, which they even get on their jet bike mounted characters to nip up and pinch an objective and then be an absolute monster to try and take down in return. So overall, a very cool list, very well written by Mr. Roberts, and I've no doubt will be played incredibly well by the people who played it throughout the event. I'll put a couple of links in the video description to Hellstorm Wargaming and Art of War, where you can see the list in action for yourselves if you fancy it. So let me know what you think of the list down in the comments below. For me, I think this really highlights the tonal shift in 40k between 8th and 9th edition. In 8th we had that Iron Hands, Invincible Leviathan and Intercessors topping the LVO, and a game in general that could be won a lot easier just by sitting and castling in your own deployment zone before heading out in the later turns once most of the enemy army had been shot to death. For me, I do think that top tier competitive lists are a lot more interesting looking now. They tend to be a nice mix of excessively durable units, ones that hit extremely hard, and a few grunts and support units for doing things like performing actions and claiming objectives. If you've enjoyed the video and would like to see more like it, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I do like to cover some interesting event winning lists from time to time. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to see when tournaments get going again. Finally, if you have enjoyed this video and would like to help support the channel, I would just like to mention that I do have a Patreon page which you can find down in the video description. Channel patrons do get a few advantages, such as seeing certain new videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry to the channel's prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.